Hello everyone, and welcome to the Cioffi Brothers podcast. I'm Ken.
I'm Alex.
And today we have two very special guests, our friend Kevin and our friend Matt, who are our resident Star Wars experts, and they're going to help us review Star Wars Battlefront. So we're going to start off talking about the systems that we're using. We, all of us together, have been playing this on Xbox One. We have not been doing it on the PC or the PS4. We've just been doing it on Xbox Ones. The three of us have been playing it with some of the new DLC packs. Alex has only played it just kind of the base level game, so that'll give you an idea as to kind of where we're coming from in some of our feedback. So, as with anything, let's start with the pros, guys. The first pro that I think we really want to talk about is that the graphics. The graphics on this are just amazing. I think, I've even seen some people who've done some stuff on the PC to take it to like the next level. But even just the base level aspects of it, I think it's just a beautiful game. And what are your guys' thoughts?
I certainly agree. It looks and feels like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So when you're on Endor, it looks like you should be, shooting some Ewoks or watching Ewoks play with the skulls of stormtroopers. Yeah.
That did happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little upset that you can't, arm yourself with a spear to go up against the blasters, but you take the good with the bad.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of brings us into what one of our next pros is, which is that the environments are really faithful. They're faithful to the movies. When you're in the environment, it really feels like something right out of the movie. You have that kind of nice gritty, dirty, old feel to the worlds. And even though they're kind of these big, expansive maps that are oriented towards multiplayer play, they still have that in-universe feel to them.
They didn't miss any of that small detail that makes Star Wars really Star Wars. The original, especially like with the original trilogy, because this game is based around the original trilogy and some of the Force Awakens.
Yeah, there's some Force Awakens stuff in it.
You can really get down into the details and see there was a lot of care put into a lot of the different things they did on each planet.
Well, and for you guys, you guys are old. I don't want to say it's old school fans. Let's say old school fans.
He just called us old. I've heard him.
But you guys saw Return of the Jedi in the theater, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yep. I don't know if I actually did. It might have been a home.
Might have been a home one.
Yeah.
So, but for you guys, playing a game like this that has this level of detail, what's that like for you guys?
You guys
coming into it?
Grew up in the Star Wars mecha era.
Yeah,
it's everything I want. I wanted to, ride the speeder bike through the forest,
right,
and inevitably crash into trees and die horribly
on the first 100 attempts that you
yes.
Not an easy task.
Amazing ability. I love being able to fly the X-wings.
Yes.
In space combat.
That's pretty cool.
And not just the X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, and then flying Slave One as well.
Yeah.
Some of the legacy characters and legacy ships.
Mm-hmm.
Which you guys have some of these ships here for us. Now these ships are technically from the X-Wings game, so not exactly related to what we're reviewing today, but it's Star Wars, so it counts.
So equally awesome, if not better. Throwing that out there.
That might be another podcast.
That's okay for another day.
Yeah, but I have to say the one thing I really enjoy about these environments and about the graphics is that they're so expansive. Like Alex said, there is absolutely no detail that's overturned, and you could be in the game running around, and you can see as far as whatever it is, miles, and even the details on the distance and the atmospheric perspective and stuff like that is just, everything was really cared about.
Well done.
And it just makes everything feel so large while you're in the game.
Watching the AT-ATs walk across.
Well, that's the cool. The scale, the scale of things is amazing, and it's done in such a way. You've played Star Wars games in the past, and you come across things like that are supposed to be larger than life. but you can tell like the scale, something's just off. It feels like a small model sometimes in past games. It feels like a small model, or because it's so flat. In older games, you can tell it doesn't give it the same grand scale. But in this game, like Matt said, with the atmospheric perspective, and that's not just they actually did go through the effort to put in atmosphere in the graphics of the game. You really get that sense of scale that when you're standing underneath the the AT-AT, it feels like you're standing underneath a large mechanism. It's really well done.
Menacing to watch walk into combat,
Yeah.
and then it's like if you're behind it, you feel empowered. It's like
Exactly. If you're an Imperial and you're walking with it, you're like, what? And if you're a rebel and you see it coming at you, you're like, oh no. So.
And I think too, like
run away!
being the older school people, as you so delicately put it, we've played games like what was it, TIE Fighter for the Commodore 64, or the
I played it on PC.
On the PC, and the X-Wing for the PC games, like back when you could be Merrick
Rogue
Steel, Rogue Squadron, and like those games, they were fun and they were good. Even Star Wars Unleashed, right? The Force Unleashed one.
They were a fun one.
They were all good games, but you play this one, and it just absolutely just makes it feel like a large scale battle with Star Wars just wrapped around it.
Yeah. So let's talk about our next pro. Is the online play. I think one of the big pros for me anyway was that this is one of the games that has really good online. Really good online aspect to it. We've all played before, from our respective homes, and it's great because we all have children now. So the children go to bed, and we can get on the Xbox, and we can still have like that playing a video game together, even though we're in our respective homes. So I think that's a really cool pro.
It's something that I've seen with many games playing online, but Star Wars does a good job of connecting you.
Yes.
Very easily, very intuitively, and just getting you right into combat with your friends and just having some fun, which is
it's true.
That's what a game is about.
It's really easy to reach out to you guys. I mean, we've done it multiple times, adding each other to each other's teams. And then if you have a headset to go along with it, we can talk to each other, we can coordinate, and that's just between the three of us. Like, not everybody's listening in on that. We can just, swear up a storm and everything.
Usually make fun of how often Matt dies.
I die a lot.
As he admires the scenery. Look at that sweeping Oh, I'm dead.
Is that the shield generator? Is that the founder?
Look at that expansive space. Uh-oh, there's the Death Star crash.
So another pro we can move on to is light character customization. And I say light because it's not something as expansive as some of like the massive online RPGs or anything like that. But not necessarily something that they even had to do for a game like this. Any kind of customization. And the fact they added in was kind of nice. You can have hair. You can add hair to your character, or not have hair to your character. Have your character wear a helmet. Different kinds of helmets. Facial hair, different kinds of things like that.
Different alien species.
Different species.
If you want to look at Greedo, you can.
That's true. Yep. Yep.
You can try to shoot first.
You can try,
but you fail.
You usually fail, but
yes.
No, it is. It's cool. They could have just. I mean, we've seen in countless Star Wars games where they just kind of drop you in as a nameless.
Not even
rebel.
just Star Wars games. Any
game
first-person shooter game where you're playing online, you're just shoulder A or soldier A, you might be able to change the color of your uniform or something. Yeah. But it's just a nice little added level of detail, and the customizations are really world specific. I mean, they have like the shoulder pads for the stormtroopers and stuff. They have the different helmets that the rebels would wear. So it's not just character customization for the sake of customization. It's things that are world specific and help you with that immersive idea.
And not only just the looks, you also can customize the weapons you can get. There's a whole bunch of unlockable weapons, and
right.
The more powerful you get, the more powerful weapons you get, which
right.
can be a problem.
Yes.
And the other part of that, too, is you can customize on the fly. So if you're playing one board, say you're playing in Jakku, right, you could have the helmet or the Desert Storm Troop shoulder pad,
mm-hmm.
and then you could go into the Death Star and you can change your look and take the shoulder pad off, put on one of the black pilot suits instead. It's kind of cool that you have that on-the-fly customization you can do if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And switch up your weapons between boards too.
Yeah.
So like on a more expansive board like Jakku, you can take the sniper rifle where you can kind of hang back and pick people off from a distance. Or if you're in the Death Star and you're in more confined spaces, you want something that's a little faster
Maybe a little
shooting,
short range.
little short range, like the shotgun type or the
blasters or
yeah.
something, the pistols.
the Jawa blaster that they got.
So next pro would be the DLC content. So there's a lot of DLC available for this. And that's kind of nice because there's, from a certain perspective, there's always lots of new things to kind of explore and experience. As of this recording, there's still some of the Rogue One content, I think that's coming out
In December.
So, even though we've had the game for a while, there's still
over a year now.
It's been out for over a year. There's still more new things to new things to come, new things to experience.
It's nice to see the developer taking the time and putting all of this stuff into the game and still supporting it a year after. I mean, how many games just get released and just kind of, there you go, it's out. Have fun with it. We're gonna move on to our next game. But now they're even going, like you said, the Rogue One DLC where they're gonna add the characters and some of the environments, and that's syncing up with the new movie that's coming out. And they did it with the Force Awakens stuff where it's synced up with the movie coming out. So it's very cool that they're going to keep on supporting it for this time until probably most likely the second one coming out.
Yep.
Yeah, and the fun part is just the anticipation of it, right? So when we got the downloadable content for I forget what it was, Bespin, the Cloud City, right? Then you got Lando Calrissian, and you got was it Bosk? Or
Might have been Dengar. I don't remember which.
Yeah, it might have been Dengar. And you got like the new characters,
The hero characters.
Right? So then you're getting Rogue One's expansion DLC coming out in December. It's like, well, who are they going to add?
Who's going to be a part of it? Yep.
And it's just kind of cool and exciting. Or are they going to add in,
Jyn Erso, I think.
Jyn Erso, or
Cassian Andor. I think his name is.
Yeah, or what ships are they going to add in? It should be kind of cool. And like they just added in the B wing and the Y wing as a wingman for the Death Star ones, I think it is.
It's for all of the. It's now all the fighter squadron
Right.
sections, which I wish they were. You could control them yourself.
Yeah, but it's like cool. It's like, okay, you were only flying X wings and A wings, but now you're seeing the Y wings. Now you're seeing the B wings, and then on the Imperial side, you were only flying the Defenders and the TIEs. Now you're seeing the Interceptors and the TIEs. Now you're seeing the Defenders as well, and that's pretty cool.
Adds to that immersiveness into the Star Wars universe. You feel like you're there fighting on the Death Star.
Which kind of wraps us into our last pro, is just the fact that this game looks, feels, sounds like Star Wars. It's not necessarily, a paint-by-numbers, first-person shooter that has a, coat of Star Wars paint slapped over it.
That's what, not to interrupt you, but, when they first announced a reboot of the Star Wars Battlefront series, it's being handled by DICE, which is the same people who do the Battlefield games, which they're pretty much like Call of Duty, all the other online shooters out there. A lot of people were expecting just a Battlefield with a coat of Star Wars paint, but no, they went all out and they really gave it their attention and their details.
Well, there's a lot of attention to detail. I mean, you walk around, and we talked about this a little bit, but you walk around the environments, and there's there's R2 units. There's the I forget the name, the little mouse droids. Yeah, running around.
Dump droids.
Yeah, there's protocol droids walking around. The silver C-3POs. Those are things that they didn't have to do. They didn't have to include those things. Those things are probably eating up CPU and RAM to have those things being rendered in the environment.
Space on the disc,
and all that stuff. All of these things that were not necessarily needed to be included, but they went through that extra step to include them, which is kind of nice.
And just the fact that you can play, there's few things that will make you feel more like you're in a Star Wars game than to be able to traipse around the corridors of the Death Star as Darth Vader.
Yes.
Or the Emperor.
And just destroy people.
And force choke and lightning, force lightning people.
Throwing your lightsaber. I've been chopped in half a few times by Darth Vader.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
As
you're
I
still
turn the
happy
corner-
to have it done.
As I turn the corner, he's there, and there's no
Like,
hope
no,
from
no,
there.
there's no-
Well,
You almost
whatever.
freeze it all like it's Darth Vader.
There it is.
This
And
is
then-
how I wanted to die.
And then he force chokes you, and you're like, oh. But so hate to go here because this is a property that's so near and dear to your guys' hearts. But as with all of our reviews, we have our pros list and we have our cons list. So we got to talk about the cons a little bit.
I think I'll lead off with the cons.
Go right ahead. Lead off with the cons.
I'll lead off with the cons because this was my main gripe with the entire game, even as it was being announced, being released, and seeing that hefty $60 price tag. There is no single-player campaign.
Yeah, there's no main
There's
campaign.
no main story. There's nothing that There's not a whole lot
Aside
there.
from the offline play.
Yeah, there's not
the
a whole
online
lot
play,
there for someone who, like myself, prefers maybe a more solo experience.
Well, for that time, let's put it this way. I would even say is the online play is great. We've already covered that. But for those times when, let's say, you don't want to get into a big map with 40 other players, or your buddies aren't available, and you just want to play by yourself, there's not that experience for a solo player.
Well, it's also, I mean, this is kind of the hallmark of the Battlefront games, even before Star Wars was involved. Like
Right.
The Battlefield games, where they were all about just the multiplayer, and they kind of shirked aside the single player campaign. I would love a single player campaign.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you look at some of the hero characters like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. I mean, I think one of the most exciting times when I first booted up the game, and we were waiting. Was playing it for the first time, and I think I was on the line with you guys already. We were all going to play it together, and you are installing the game, and you get to walk around as Darth Vader, just hunting down rebels in the Hoth base.
Yep.
And that was just like, so there could be missions like that, and it seems kind of a missed opportunity.
I think the biggest problem I have with not having a campaign mode is you do have those challenge modes that you can play, and it's great, it's fun. And like you said, you have the hero mode that you can play while you're waiting for things to download, right? But you really miss that opportunity to kind of train and hone your skills of the game in those battle situations with you when you have like single campaign modes.
Absolutely.
And there's people out there that can play this game online for 4 or 5 hours, for whatever reason, they just have the time.
Yeah.
And then there's, people like us who have kids or, 1 or 2 jobs, and we're trying to work and get this into our time too, and it's just like, well, I've only got 15 minutes. I can't commit to playing a 40-person online game that's going to last half an hour.
Right.
I just want to get in there,
Play around for a little while.
Yeah.
Kill some Ewoks.
Yes.
Oh, we don't kill Ewoks around here. That's taboo.
But their meat is delicious. Roasted slowly.
Over the open fire.
The basting is the important part. Gotta baste.
So I think that's a great point, and that kind of goes along with one of our other points was just and we don't need to rehash this, but just the single player aspect of it was weak, and then this kind of segues into this next point of the fact that you kind of almost always have to play online can limit your advancement, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna loop this into some of our other ones. Actually, this whole section is just going to be a mishmash of the cons. But the fact that you're always online, if you get kicked off in the middle of something, you lose your progress. Like some first-person shooter games, if you're in like an arena and you're playing with a whole bunch of other people, you get kicked out. It's not a big deal. But what's kind of cool about Star Wars Battlefront is that when you're on, in one of these big maps and you're fighting and you're shooting people, whatever, you actually gain like experience points and stuff like that. So if you get kicked out, you lose that progress. And you get, I think, it could be mistaken here, but I think you get more progress when you're doing it online as opposed to if you're just doing a practice training mission by yourself. So that kind of, it can limit you if you don't have internet access, or if you're having a bad day and your internet access is a little spotty. It limits your ability to level your character up.
Well, I definitely, if you don't have internet access, don't even buy the game.
Right.
Because you're not going to be able to play it.
Well, you're not going to be able to get maximize the use of it. I mean, you might be able to do some things. You can play it. It's just not going to be as much fun.
You'll get like a tenth of the game that's there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just not. It's not worth it at the asking price.
Right.
If you're going to play this game, you need to be online.
Which means
it's recommended online.
Which means you need to have one of the online subscription services. So whether you're Xbox, it's Xbox
One.
Gold, or if it's PlayStation, it's PS Plus.
It's PlayStation Plus, and that's an extra
That's
$60 a year.
Exactly. On top of the cost of the game, which
Right.
I mean is true for a lot of games, but that's something to take into consideration. Because you're not just buying a $60 game, you're buying a $60 game plus a $50 year subscription to Xbox Live.
Right, and then if you add into that too the DLC content like the season pass,
Exactly.
you get,
You're looking at
That's another what, $24 if you're buying
another
a
$50 for the season pass.
60, yeah,
just
it's
getting $50.
It's $160 at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to it just in terms of the value. I think overall it comes back to the fact that the lack of single player is a problem.
And I understand it too from like a marketing perspective. Like, this is a cash cow. They can charge whatever they want, and they've got us who will complain about the cost, but we'll still buy it because it's awesome.
Because it's Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
waiting for the Rogue One to come out.
Yeah, but it still sucks that at the end of the day, like you said, we could pay $160, almost $200 by the first year this game has been out.
Right.
And it's like, I could have probably just gone out and got a PS4 too.
Right.
Instead of just playing this one game for the Xbox One.
Right. Well, and that comes into our next thing in terms of all the DLC content. So, I guess the question really comes down to we're definitely in an interesting era in terms of downloadable content, and this is kind of a broader discussion. We don't need to get into it too much, but in terms of the fact that there are such things as day one DLC, that wasn't a thing a couple of years ago.
It's a dreaded word.
It is a dreaded word, yeah. And so there's a lot of DLC associated with this game. Now, in the past, it was always my thought that downloadable content was something that was created after the initial game was made to extend the life of the game so that people, could continue to enjoy the game and maybe they'd make a couple extra bucks off of something they've already built. But now what it's...
being the Fallout games.
The Fallout games, yeah. I would say Fallout 3. Fallout 4 was starting to get into this other stuff, but still, Fallout 4. We talked about that already. So
citing an example.
Exactly. No. It's true. With all this DLC, given that the single player was a little light, given that you can only play this online, was it necessary for all this DLC to exist in the form that it did, and why maybe was some of it not included in the original game?
I don't know, because you look at some of the other games that they've come out with that have downloadable content. I'm a huge fan of the Batman games, right? The Arkham City, Arkham Origins, Arkham Knight. And, if you had bought Arkham City a year after it came out, all that downloadable content came with their platinum hits or their best.
Yeah, the best of
the
best
Game of
of
the Year
yeah.
edition.
Game of the
And
year,
it was
whatever
maybe
it
the
is.
same price as when the game first came out.
Mhm.
Which what comes out next week, Star Wars Battlefront Ultimate Edition that has all the DLC.
Right. And it's like...
And for $10 cheaper.
Exactly. It's like, why don't we just wait a year to buy it then? And it's like...
Well, that's the real question,
Yeah.
and that's what I don't know. I mean, that, like I said, that we're getting into the bigger question of the pros and cons of DLC and the evil versus necessary evil and then all that kind of stuff. So
I feel like it's almost a way for the game companies to charge more for their games without actually raising the price of their game.
right.
Like,
Well, that's ultimately what I'm asking. Is
when
this
the
a situation?
Xbox 360, Xbox One came out, or Xbox 360, they bumped the price of a new game up to $60.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox One comes out, they want to kind of keep it there, but they still want to make more money. So
Right.
they're like, here you go, here's your game.
Well, you've also
You want
got
it a little better?
yeah. Yeah, well, you've
There
also
you
got the
go.
secondhand
$50.
game market, which is the secondhand game market. I think is always also impacting that as well.
Yeah.
And that again, I think we're starting to digress a little bit into.
That's a broader issue.
Yeah.
The real question here
Listen, I got the
is-
time.
My kid's asleep. I could talk about this.
The real question is
in this
coming
game,
from you guys, especially
Yeah.
old school Star Wars fans, there, is it worth it?
right?
You know, logically, no, it is not worth it. But
At the end of the day, it's Star
From
Wars.
a Star Wars,
Yeah.
not from a logic standpoint, because I've spent a lot of money on games I don't need. From a fan perspective, from a fun perspective, is it worth it?
it totally is because
Doing the trench run on the Death Stars.
Yeah, if
That
I had
was
to,
pretty cool.
If
That
I
was
had to
pretty
wait
cool.
another year to do that, being like, oh, it came out. I'm just going to wait another year for it to come out on the Ultimate Edition or whatever it was. No, it's like going to see Force Awakens after Episode 8 comes out next year.
Right.
No,
Right.
no, I'm
Right.
not waiting.
No, that's a fair point. Like
If you're a fan,
if you're a fan, you want to go see it in
you
the
wanna
theaters.
do
You
it.
don't want to wait until
Yeah.
it comes out on DVD
Yeah, and
or
getting
Blu-ray or whatever.
getting to run through the
VHS.
Death Star or getting to run
To Cloud City.
through Cloud City. It's like, yeah, I could wait a year to do this, but why? Why would I?
Why would I?
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
why would I
do
want to wait?
that?
Yeah. Okay.
But I crashed it.
Of course.
I just
Um,
wish that they did their DLC, and this is basically going across all the DLC stuff, the way that Halo 2 did it back in the day,
Right.
where they had however much for their map packs. Then after a certain period of time, it was either like 6 months or right around there. Then they dropped it down to free.
Mhm.
So the people who wanted to get to know the maps and want to get really good, so they can be on top of the leaderboard, they could go first day, spend their money, get those maps, practice like crazy, so they can blow my head off. But at the 6 month point, I can get the free maps and still play them.
Yeah,
Right.
and even if they
But that
didn't,
just never.
No,
never
it's
took
not.
out.
We're not in that world anymore.
yeah, and even if they didn't drop the price to free like they did back then, because obviously markets change and everything. But if they were like, hey, instead of $15 for Best Bin, we're only going to charge $5
Yeah.
or $7.50 or whatever it is.
Bring the price down a little bit so
Have a sale.
yeah, like do something like
Yeah, Rogue One is coming out. Put the other ones on sale before
Yeah.
the Rogue One comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
really kind of cash in on cash in on everything at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we've covered the DLC aspect of it, and that really just brings us to I think a couple last minute things. There's some glitches still. I think Matt, you specifically had pointed out in some of the larger maps, we still see we see enemy pop in. We see random floating bodies. Some weird glitchy things here and there.
I think it was just the Force.
It could have been the Force just holding it up.
That's what
It's
happens when you
possible.
get choked to death
That's
by Vader. Just float there for a
Is
turn.
that
And the
official
pop-ins
press
were
release?
just Force ghosts.
Yeah,
It was Obi-Wan and Yoda.
So, but I
And
mean,
old-
And Hayden Christensen.
Anakin Skywalker. Not new one.
No, that mold. So
Just doesn't even make any sense.
But I mean, I guess it comes down to again, the value for your dollar. You're spending $60 on this game. You spend another $60 in DLC. Plus, you're spending however much money for the online content. Should you be buying a game that works?
No, you
price
shouldn't.
does.
But I think the point to that is, it's gotten to the point where video games are being pushed out, and like it's okay, they're all being
rolling
downloaded.
release.
We're releasing them, and we'll fix the glitches as we
Patch
go
it
along.
later.
Patch
Yeah,
it
we'll
later.
patch it later.
Right.
Take care of this later.
And not to
Imagine how good of a game E.T. would have been if they had that back then.
I don't even know.
It could have been a great game if only they had rolling releases, day one DLC and patches and all that.
We are all dating ourselves right now. By the way, I don't think anyone knows what ET is anymore.
E.T. for the Atari, it's known. There was a documentary
Yes.
on
Yeah,
it.
that game that came out before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Entertainment Tonight, the TV show. No.
Yeah.
No.
But I want to know what AC Slater's doing. He was a character in an old TV show.
Oh, okay.
Old school people would know
Yeah.
that.
So we've talked quite a bit about Star Wars Battlefront, and let's do final grades. We'll hold you guys to the end because you guys are the true fans.
The old people.
The old
The
people.
old school fans.
I don't know why they should wait. We'll be dead before we get there.
Isn't the Golden Girls on soon?
I gotta go watch Matlock.
Okay, so Alex,
Smash on? Is that?
Smash? Is that
that is a great show. I don't care how old you are.
So final grades. Alex, what's your final grade for Star Wars Battlefront?
As much as I talked about liking a lot of it, I still can't get past that single player. It's a C+ for me. I just no single player irks me. I don't know. $60 for an online only game makes me angry.
You hurt my heart.
It holds me out a little bit.
Hurt me right
When
now.
this camera goes off, I will be sure to meet you outside.
By the playground at high noon?
With
I'll take
Texas
you, old.
Walker
I'll take you,
and
old
Ranger.
man. Try not to break
Jack
your
Johnson.
hip, all right?
So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, and I'm going to say that for my grade, I'm going to give it a B-. I thought it's a solid game. I still have a lot of fun with it. I am a little disappointed by the lack of single player on it, but I still have a lot of fun with the game. So, Kevin, let's start with you. What would you give your final grade for Star Wars Battlefront?
Definitely have a problem with the fact that there's no single player.
Yeah.
I would greatly enjoy that. When I have a single player urge, I have to go back to the Force Unleashed games.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a perfect game, but again, when you get to traipse around Tatooine as Luke Skywalker, it helps cover up those
Cut yourself in
deficiencies.
half,
Yeah,
yes, with the
it covers
lightsaber.
up those wounds pretty good. So I would have to give it a B. Originally, I thought a little lower, but just because it's Star Wars, it goes up higher.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a perfect game like X-Wing Miniatures. Available at your local game store.
All right, so Matt, your last item in this debate.
I'm going to actually give this a A-.
Nice. Okay.
You know, I understand the whole not having single player mode, and I get that too. And really, the only thing for me that doesn't make this an A+ game is the downloadable content.
Okay.
And it's just pricey, and it's just, I understand it's a big, huge cash cow for Star Wars, regardless, but the gameplay, the multiplayer functionality, the extent that you can customize stuff, the feel, the look, the sound, everything about it is just perfectly Star Wars. And I think it's just a fantastic game to play. It's a fantastic social aspect to get together with friends, and if nothing else, I think that's really the real purpose of it.
Great. That's great point. I think that's something that sums things up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that basically wraps us up for the day. I'd like to thank our friends Kevin and Matt for joining us and for giving us their input on the game. And
Anytime you want my opinion on anything, you just have to ask.
Yeah, seriously, me
Okay.
too. I'm here.
we might have to
full
make
of
this
opinions, whether they're right or wrong.
a regular thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Guest
we can
stars,
talk about
they're-
our love-hate of the DC animated movies and their animation style.
Yes. Yeah. That's more we can talk about.
Or the hate of DC movies in general.
Oh,
That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other...
or we could
With the
just
exception of Christopher Nolan Batman series. I understand.
That's true.
we could just push the Cioffi brothers out and just do a full X-Wing podcast.
Okay.
So, anyways, moving on here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about X-Wing miniatures. Yeah. Did you just... No, I just stick to standoff.
Very good. Very good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Cioffi Brothers podcast. And as always, feel free to comment, subscribe, and everything below. And we'll see you next time.